A long way from a perfect Leinster performance, but there are signs that things are starting to click for them. My name's Mark, let's talk rugby. First minute of this one, we have an incident. Johnny Williams, he gets a yellow card for lifting beyond the horizontal in the tackle. From there then, Leinster start to really apply pressure. James Ryan with a great turnover in the middle of the pitch. Leinster then spin that wide. Osborne with a lovely offload with his back to the direction of play. That sets James Gibson Park away in the left wing. He breaks into 22 and then puts it inside for Prendergast, who rides a tackle and goes over to score. Prendergast misses the conversion, but it's 5-0 to Leinster. Leinster then come again. Scarlets knock on and Leinster work it into the 22. They suck in the defence, and then there's a long pass out wide to Jimmy O'Brien, who steps back inside and goes over to score. Prendergast converts for 12-0. Leinster then, they attack off a line out. They're out on the left. They spin it all the way out to the right. Larmer steps back inside, avoids a few tackles. Osborne goes close, and then Deegan goes over to score. Prendergast converts for 19-0. Leinster then go close again. Some lovely hands across the line and some decent interchanges to create a bit of an overlap. Larmer again with a cut back inside, but Van der Fleer knocks on in a tackle, and it's a 5 metre. He was about 5 metres out from there. Scarlets are able to clear. They then get a chance to attack as they kick a penalty into the Leinster 22. But James Ryan with a brilliant steal and the chance is snuffed out. Scarlets so beginning to come into the game a bit. They work it into the Leinster 22 off a line out, get right up to the line. They win a penalty. They decide to tap that. They're pounding away at that line. Leinster holding them out, but then they go to width and Johnny Williams goes over in the corner. Conversion is missed and it's 19-5. Scarlets then win a scrum penalty. And scrum was probably one of the positives for them. Andrew Porter wasn't too happy with some of the decisions, but when the scrum kind of turned Leinster's way, you could see that the Scarlets front row weren't too happy with some of the decisions either. So, when is a prop ever happy when they concede a penalty? But Scarlets kick it to the corner and they decide to go short, but Leinster are wide to it and they force a turnover, but then they get pinged for sealing off. Leinster then steal the Scarlets line out again, but Josh Van der Fleer knocks on as he looked to run it out of away from his own line. Scarlets then go through phases off the scrum. Tuipulotu was some great carries for them. He was probably a standout player for Scarlets tonight. Leinster holding them out. There's a great tackle then from Keenan on Jonathan Davies, potentially a try saver. That one, lovely low chop and preventing any chance of an offload as well, just by how quickly he got him to the ground. Hardy then snipes, but he gets isolated and Leinster win a penalty. Halftime score then is 19-5. Leinster started really well, but Scarlets responded and worked their way back into the game. And they could have got, another score before half time, but for some really decent defence from Leinster. Into the second half then, Kieran Hardy, he breaks from a scrum. It's kind of a weird one because Jameson Gibson Park kind of half tackles him, and then I don't know what he did. He kind of turned his back on him, and Hardy just said, right, okay, I'm off. He flew down the wing. Josh Van der Fleer working his way back to kind of close him down. And Leinster just about get him into touch 10 metres short of the line, but great pace and awareness from Hardy for that break. Leinster then counter from a knock-on by Gareth Davis. Keenan, he's close, maybe about 15 metres out. He's got options inside and out. He decides to pop it inside to Gary Ringrose, who goes over for the bonus point try. Prendergast converts for 26-5. Leinster then come forward again. McCarthy basically picks the ball from the back of an unguarded Scarlets ruck. Referee said nobody's on their feet, so it's fair enough for him to take it. He takes it up, makes some good ground. Leinster recycle, they get the ball and spread out wide. Sheehan then puts in a lovely kick through, and Keenan almost gets to it to actually claim the ball and go over. So, but he puts a kick in that goes out, but it was a decent move. Didn't really come to anything though. But it's not long before Leinster score again, moving the ball quickly in that Scarlets 22. Sheehan with a really good carry in there. Nice hands from Furlong as well. Then Byrne puts Osborne over to score. Byrne converts for 33-5. He's on for Prendergast now. Leinster then attack off a 5-metre line out. They move it quickly. Osborne almost goes over. Basically came back on the against the grain on a crash ball and was stopped just shy of the line. They then recycle, and Jack Boyle goes over to score. Byrne makes it 40 points to 5 with the conversion. Leinster then they get over again. This time is through Osborne from close range, and it was coming for a while. Scarlets, they've just been desperately defending in their own 22 for most of the second half, especially since conceding that last one. Ross Byrne then breaks the 1,000 point barrier for Leinster with the conversion, goes on to 1,001, and it's 47-5 in the game. Scott Williams then gets a yellow card for a high hit on the head of Fintan Gunn. Scarlett send a man down. Only a few minutes left to play, but time enough for Leinster to go over again. Some lovely hands. They're keeping the ball alive. It's not really fluid stuff like the ball. It's kind of being popped out and stuff like that, but it is going to the deck backwards, and so it's not exactly all fluid stuff from them, but still just some good awareness and good hands and good reactions as well to make sure to keep that alive. Then Doris with a really clever play commits some defenders, and then that eventually opens a gap up for Deegan, who goes over to score, converted by Byrne. Final score is 54-5. So normally at this point of the video, this is where we'd look at the stats, but what I'm going to do is the stats from the URC have not been right directly after the game. It's basically, I started this video just after the final whistle went, but so what I'm going to do is I'm going to wait till tomorrow, and through the magic of editing, you're going to see me in probably my work shirt doing the stats, and then at the end of the video as well. Right, so the magical editing has happened, and we are back the next day. This is Sunday, so we're going to look at the stats. Starting on attack, so 8 tries to 1 for Leinster. Again, not a perfect performance from them by any means, but you can see that they're getting there. And Scarlets, you got to be worried about them. Like, how many tries did they ship now this year? I haven't looked yet, but it's got to be a lot, because they got hammered twice in South Africa already. And you got to look at not just the defense, like their all around play as well. Like, there were times in the game where they were competitive, but not enough really. But possession, 49% Leinster, 51 for Scarlets. So they had slightly more possession, but didn't really do much with it. Clean breaks then, 12 for Leinster, 1 for Scarlets. Leinster, they made those breaks. It still feels like they're not quite there in terms of just being that slick machine that we've seen before, where those each of those breaks are going to turn into a try. But they did open up the Scarlets on a number of occasions. Defenders beaten 27-14. So Scarlets, on defense struggling, on attack struggling as well. There were glimpses from them as well too. Like, don't get me wrong, but listening to the Welsh, like, I watch all the matches on URC TV, which just pulls the feed from whatever TV channel is showing the match live, I think. So we got the Welsh commentary team, and listening to them, you swear the Scarlets were robbed in a very close game. It was unbelievable listening to them. But Scarlets, they did have good moments in the game though. Offloads then, 14 for Leinster, 8 for the Scarlets. And Leinster, one of those teams where some teams I feel just offload for the sake of it, or just because they're under pressure and they're trying to get rid of the ball. Leinster are one of the teams that, not all the time, but there are kind of more kind of strategic offloads, I'd put it, where there was that one by Osborne where he was out wide and he was facing the wrong way, offloaded off to James Gibson Park. He goes through, and then it was a Sam Prendergast try, right? That was a really good one there. That's the one that stood out for me. Defence then, 49% territory to Leinster, 51 to Scarlets. Again, Scarlets slightly more ball and slightly more territory, but did very little with it. Number of tackles, 197 from Leinster, 148 for Scarlets. Missed tackles, 14 to 27. And then, tackling percentage, 93 from Leinster, really good. It's actually a lot higher than we're used to seeing from Leinster, because Leinster, actually Leinster's first up tackling generally isn't that great in terms of that, just keeping that line of defence. But what they're really good at is that scramble when somebody gets in behind, and oftentimes they actually use that to isolate a player and win turnovers. But in this one, they seem to be able to handle most of what Scarlets threw at them fairly comfortably. Scarlets 85%, which is just at the bottom level of that kind of pass mark. But, against a Leinster team, you got to be tackling it hard than that, or at least be offering more in attack than they were. Turnovers 1 then, 9 for Leinster and 8 for Scarlets. On to kicking, 2 kicks retained each. Both teams being competitive in the air. Again, it was kind of a weekend with, especially in Ireland at least, with the weather, where a lot of contestable kicks were leading to maybe knock-ons or stuff like that. But I think maybe the Leinster game was a bit drier than the other Irish games that we saw. Kicking success then, every time I have to say it, why? It's a nothing stat. It's always 0-0. Penalties conceded in 10 for Leinster, 11 for Scarlets. So, on the penalty count, Scarlet's not that far away. Leinster, 10 penalties, a lot to be conceding in a game. And generally, when you hear like a team has conceded that many, you think they're probably going to be the losing side. But, Leinster were just comfortable, I think is the right word for them in this game. They were so comfortable that even concede those penalties, it felt like Scarlets couldn't really do much to take advantage of them. And then when Leinster, the opposite side, when Leinster got penalties, they were taking advantage. Right, so overall then, Leinster, they're kind of getting into that stride. A little bit slower than they were last season, but last season they kind of peaked a bit early in the season and fell off right at the end there. So maybe they're timing to run a little bit better this year. Scarlets, you got to be worried as a Scarlets fan, honestly, because it's not just that they're losing games, because last year they didn't have a great start to the season either, but it's just the fact that they've shipped 3 really big defeats, and yeah, you can say, like, I believe it was the Bulls, Stormers and Leinster, so like it's arguably 3 of the top 4, certainly 3 of the top 6 teams in the league. I don't think that's anybody's going to question that, given where these teams have finished in the last few seasons. But still, not every team gets destroyed by these teams. So when you're the team that each of them was able to take apart, then there's definitely more than just waiting for even like they still got internationals in the team as well, so it's not like they're waiting for tons of players to come back. But even that, like, it doesn't feel like it's that, or that it's just waiting for something to click, or kind of minor issues that need to be fixed. It feels like there's a lot of work for them to do, and like kind of a lot of the Welsh teams, I think that they've got to start being more competitive in the URC. It seemed like last year where they they got to the point where all they were doing was competing against each other, and not even really targeting getting into the playoffs. But I'd love to see a Welsh team get into those playoffs, because we need all of the URC countries represented at the pointy end of the table, and we're not seeing that from Wales at all. And I'd love to see one of the teams sort themselves out, but I don't think Scarlets are going to be that team, at least not at the moment. But we've seen before where teams can make dramatic changes over the course of a season, so fingers crossed that they can actually manage that. But yeah, Leinster, a decent win for them, but even for them, there's still more work to be done as well.